gas ourselves up, but we short on breath. Talking about we eating, but who we really cooking. Dreaming about greens, but ain't nobody looking. No land, no acres, no seeds in the ground. When the hunger hits, who's gonna be around? We starving every day, and it just ain't the food. Feeding the hood garbage, got 'em acting they fool. We flossing with rides, stunting with chains, but these bars we spitting just bring more pain. We guilty as hell, preaching all these lies, selling debt to the kids, and we acting surprised. We commercialize the pain, broadcast the grief, tell the youth to hustle, but hide the beef. We glorify the trap, invite them to the flames, just like Reagan brought the crack on planes. Back in the 80s when the streets got soaked, my people, my brothers, all got choked. Reagan said no trades, but we know the deal. He left us in the dirt, man, that shit was real. I was just a shorty watching it unfold, old enough to see how we got sold. War on drugs, but it was war on us. Cops on our necks, no love, no trust. They labeled us thugs, beast on the block, made us kiss the pavement while they cleaned our clock. Prison became business thanks to Reagan's game. Free labor is the truth in America's name. Slavery's dead, man. That's just a word. Read the 13th Amendment, it's still absurd. They lock us in cages, serving time for life. Double digits for wisdom, cutting sharp like a knife. I'm here to say, the chains in the air, it's time we break free, start showing we care. No more flexing for nothing, no more selling out. It's time to rise up.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. You already know how I do independent music, and this morning I got Bryson Gray. Let's Set Me Free, and we'll be right back right after this.
Saying he had to retreat, reasons the devil and then he gon' flee. Crash paid the bill, I don't need a receipt. All of the sin, lust, alcohol, and drugs. Go press delete, Yeshua. Yeshua. I'm off the leash. I wanna be great in heaven and not the least. No TLC, Satan don't come around here, but I know we gon' creep. Mark of the beast, right in our faces, but Christians they don't even speak. I don't hear a peep about what influence our children all on the TV. Bustin' in schools, they not rated PG. Disguise it as learning, but it's all to see. Showing them things that they not supposed to see. I call it out and they y'all mad at me. If not repentance, then what do you preach? If not obedience, what do you teach? Scriptures say his command's not out of reach. That's why the kingdom the first thing I see. That's why I pay all way over trends. I was dirty until I got cleansed. If you feeling stuck enslaved to sin, Yeshua, Yeshua. Can't wait for a beat. Overcame Satan, he had to retreat. Resist the devil, one day he gon' flee. Christ paid the bill, I don't need a receipt. All of the sin, lust, alcohol, and drugs. Go press the lead, Yeshua. Set me free, Yeshua. Set me free. Hold on, can't wait for a beat. Overcame Satan, he had to retreat. Resist the devil, one day he gon' flee. Christ paid the bill, I don't need a receipt. All of the sin, lust, alcohol, and drugs. Go press the lead, Yeshua. Ay, ripping and change. Or get the heat like LeBron or Dwayne. You go to them flames. Say you in Christ, but don't live what you claim. Hey, repent. I said it. Hebrews 5 verse 9. Have you ready? If you don't obey, you don't get no credit. You know Christ came for the sick like a medic. They ain't set you free, so please don't go back. Covered by the blood, tell Satan hold that. I wasn't saying he broke that. You know it. Can't wait for a beat. Overcame Satan, he had to retreat. Resist the devil, one day he gon' flee. Christ paid the bill, I don't need a receipt. All of the sin, lust, alcohol, and drugs. Go press the lead, Yeshua. Set me free, Yeshua. Set me free. Hold on, can't wait for a beat. Overcame Satan, he had to retreat. Resist the devil, one day he gon' flee. Christ paid the bill, I don't need a receipt. All of the sin, lust, alcohol, and drugs. Go press the lead, Yeshua.
That was Bryson Gray, Set Me Free. This morning, I know I wasn't on yesterday. I was having problems with my, we had to get a new lock. So couldn't lock the door or whatever. So I had to wait for the guy to come change it. And so I didn't do one yesterday. But today I want to talk about a lot. And I know maybe some people aren't ready for it, but I think these are conversations that we need to have with each other. And it doesn't matter if it gets uncomfortable, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to make people uncomfortable. So the first thing that I want to get into is racism controls immigration. And I don't think a lot of people can really argue with this. This is Dr. Claude Anderson, and I noticed that a lot of Democrats, progressives, liberals, whatever they want to call themselves, label themselves, don't really talk about the leaders who are still here, like Thomas Sewell, Dr. Claude Anderson. You know, we're always fed these other people who really aren't trying to get us towards freedom, but make sure that we're slaves. And what I mean by slaves is mentally. So let me get into racism controls immigration. And this is Dr. Claude Anderson. And I'll be right back.
That's racism. You don't have enough resources to be able to compete. That's racism. You don't have enough resources to be able to compete. So I try to have enough understanding so if I get big enough, like Samson, I'm gonna write these books and tell black folk what's going on, so you understand the issues. Yet out of that same time, we move to the next issue. I told you immigration is the next thing. The last thing, and that fourth thing will be automation. But immigration was the third thing. When these immigrants come into the country, I say black. At that time, here we during the World War II, we had POW, prisoners of war. I'm a small kid. Every day I had to walk downtown to help, to earn a little money, pennies, to help the family sometimes. And as you walk by, and I walk by the prison camp right there on Liberty and 5th Street, and they had all these German prisoners in there. As we walked by, they would give us the finger and drop their pants and moon us and show us their butts and make fun of us and try to spit on us. These are German POW prisoner of war. At the same time, all our black soldiers oversized fighting in Germany, fighting Germans. And these Germans were out there playing ball, volleyball, tennis, and behind a fence. When I would go downtown to the movies, the whites, and look at the whites, they had the best theater. Guess who was going in? All the prisoners of war, white Germans going to the prison of war. They sat in the best restaurants and the best theaters, ate the best food. Why? Because I found out later on because of the immigration policy in this country. Immigration policy says there's a ranking order in this country on how people can be accepted. They call it the American dream. And I said, what black folks know what the American dream is? They got all these damn college degrees. And I asked them, you know what the American dream is? No, I don't know. It's set up in the national policy in 1790, 1 year after the ratification of the Constitution. And the Constitution was ratified in 1789. And next year, the first thing that Congress did was enact what they call the first nationalization and immigration law, which set up a racial order, a ranking order of acceptance into the country, of who can come in and who cannot come in. And now you come in, it's based on skin color, going white, yellow, brown, black. As you go down, it got dark. And black were the only people not permitted to come in. And the American dream, now what was the American dream? They advertised all around the world for whites to come to America, or anybody that rank and order could come to America. Hispanics from next down in the browns, or the yellows, the Asians, they could come to the country. They could get free resources, but the bottom blacks, you couldn't get it because of an economic issue. And every white that came to the country was entitled to all the benefits of the society based on their rank and order. It started first with land. That's why Thomas Jefferson, so-called one of the earlier fathers of the country, he got over 100,000 acres of free land. They turned around and took a few lands from us down in South Carolina. But Thomas Jefferson got over 100,000 acres of free land. George Washington got over 100,000 acres of free land. Patrick Henry that says, give me liberty, give me death, got over 65,000 acres of free land. Every white person came to the country under the so-called American dream, got automatically came into the country, he can get what's called homesteading rights. Get 650 free acres of land and get another 150 acres of free land for every slave he owned. And black folk couldn't get any, couldn't get 40 acres of a mule. You're playing against a stacked deck, and if you don't understand, you don't have an understanding of what's going on. You own and control nothing. They started about 20 railroads across the country and gave each one of them 6 miles of free land on each side of the damn railroad across America. That they turned around, and the railroads turned around and sold that land for $40 an acre later on and got rich. And all together, during the American dream, immigrants coming to the country got over 1 billion, with a B, acres of free land. When you all look at TV and you see them talking about the ranchers out west and the big, large farms out west, and you always, they got all these acres. They didn't pay for it, it was given to them. And it's been passed on from one generation to the next, when a few blacks were struggling trying to get land. You don't have any land to deal with, to grow, to build ranches and farms. And that land that was given, the 1 billion acres of free land that was given to whites.
This is the part that I think people really should pay attention to, is it when he really talks, Dr. Claude Anderson, there's a lot of things that have happened since the Emancipation Proclamation, General Order number 15, then we had the DC Emancipation Act. So there was different things that led until what we see today. And people don't really want to put those pieces to the puzzle together, is because they rather just look at a puzzle that's in chaos. Because if you look at history all the way back to slavery days, right? We went black. There is no other race of people that have gone through the things that we've gone through in the United States of America, a country that we built while we were slaves, indentured, chattel. We are literally property. And we still are at the bottom. Why? Because we have never been on an equal playing ground. Never. When we had Black Wall Street, they got rid of it. When we had black towns, black unity, they got rid of it. The one thing that the government is scared of is black unity. They don't want to see things like what the Black Panthers were doing. They don't want to hear people like Malcolm X. That's why they put MLK in front of us. It's no disrespect to MLK, because I wasn't born during that time. I don't really, you can read the FBI files and all the things that they put out here about Malcolm X and MLK. I don't know what's true and what's not, right? I know that, MLK, before he was the, I guess big, you want to know what I'm saying? The Southern Baptists kicked him out. See, that's the part that we're not really told about. Why did the church kick out MLK? But that's another discussion for another day. But back to Powernomics, that is one thing that is missing. And one thing that has really hurt us, right, is what a lot of people don't like to bring up is back in 1960, maybe like the late 60s, early 70s, Dr. Claude Anderson had a plan that was corrective action, not affirmative, corrective action. And then they turned it into affirmative. So everything that is supposed to be to keep us on a level playing field has always been taken by the American government to make it seem like they wanted to help us, but it's not, because all you're seeing is the same thing that American dream is given to immigrants now. People on statuses that can go back to their country in vacation, but don't want to go back to the country and live. I never did really understand that, right? And I'm starting to see that now, especially when it comes to the Somali community, because I know a lot of them go back to Somalia for months at a time. So why not go back there and live? If you can go back there and vacation and see your families, why are you in a country that really you don't need to be in anymore? You can go back. That's the one thing I don't even understand. And even with all the money that has went through airports back to Somalia, Kenya, you African money, you guys are rich. You guys are rich. If $1 million was going to Somalia a day, or Kenya, not Nigeria, what do you think that $1 million or half of $1 million was in their currency? It made them rich. It made them live anything better because I'm gonna talk about this for a second. And I remember growing up in elementary school, and they would show us pictures or like videos of Africa. But then I remember when I met some, it was about 95, late 94 or 95. I met some Somalis who came to America, and then I would see their pictures. It wasn't the same thing that you would see on National Geographic or the things that they try to show you in school, right? To show you that, oh, they were bad. This was like a third world country. It really wasn't really that bad. Yes, they had some governments that were not right for the people, but I shouldn't even say not right for the people because maybe we just didn't understand it. I think about Gaddafi or I think about Nelson Mandela, uh, all are people who have put themselves for the people. And then what did we do? America came and took that away. So, uh, same thing with Cuba. Look at what Cuba's going through now. A lot of people don't even want to talk about that on how their power grid is fucked up. It's for a reason. I really do believe it's for a reason why a lot of this shit happens. And it's because America has always had some kind of policy or didn't agree with what's going on, just like with NATO. So I'm going to say this is that a lot of people don't want to say that there is black immigrants. There is. They use the blackness to get all kind of grants, loans. They like to bunch us all on people of color, minorities. Let's talk about what's real because the same thing that was supposed to help our communities, the black communities, y'all have helped the immigrant communities. The same thing, even like when Bob Fletcher is talking about the Somalis. Where did they get that shit from? Us, America. They didn't come, they might have had clans back in Africa. They didn't have colors over here like America. Because this is the one thing that I can say is, especially when it came to the Africans, because I remember like 94, 95, 96, 97, you had Nigerian Bloods, Nigerian Crips, Ethiopian gangsters. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Not to say anything bad about it, but I'm like, damn, y'all are trying to be so Americanized and forget where y'all have come from, right? And I'm not saying that on anything bad, but what I am saying is that instead of trying to make your community better or even make the community that you've moved into better, no, they brought that mentality, and then our laws and our politicians have made it easier for them communities to skyrocket. You look at North Minneapolis, the old Aldi's that used to be in there. That's been in the Continental Grocery has been in the news lately, about how the owners in debt and all this shit. Give that shit back to the community. Give that to the black community. Because I know this is the one thing that really frustrates me, right? Because unless you have some kind of progressive policies or some kind of socialist policies or the way you vote, they're not going to let a conservative or even a black man that wants to promote nuclear families. Nuclear. Does people know what that means? Two parents That means that there's two parents in the household. I don't care if it's a man or a woman. I don't care if it's two women. I don't care if it's two men. To me, that is a nuclear family. You have both sets of parents. I don't care about your gender, none of that shit, right? All I care about is that you're a nuclear family. All y'all want to get into is that, no. A nuclear family is two sets of parents. I don't care if they're gay. I don't care if they're lesbian. I don't care if you're heterosexual. I don't care, whatever, right? I'm sick and tired of the one parent household. That's what I grew up in. Even though my mom had boyfriends and all that, they weren't really like beyond my brother's dad. They weren't role models. These were like drug dealers, pimps. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, and nothing bad about them. You know what I'm saying? Because I did learn a lot. I learned about survival. I learned about you can't be lazy out here. You got to keep your eyes on the prize, because if you don't, somebody else is going to take it from you. So let me get back into this. Powernomics, racism controls immigration with Dr. Claude Anderson.
Free under what they call the American dream. It's been passed on for each succeeding generation of whites. And every 20 years, it doubles and triples in value. And that's why right now, out of about almost $130 trillion worth of GDP product of wealth in this country, you own 1/2 of 1% of wealth in the nation. That's why you came out of slavery. You had 1/2 of 1%, and 150 years later, you still have 1/2 of 1%. Where the average white person has 3,500 times more wealth than you. How are you going to compete if you don't know how to play the game and get some understanding what the issues are? They got anything to do with social integration. It said, are we going to be a competitive people, or are we going to perish? You got to own and control resources. And so what I'm going to tell you about today, you got to learn how to play this game and learn how to fast. Time is almost run out. The door is pretty well closed now. We are now the official underclass in America. I predicted way back in 1970 when I wrote the affirmative action plan to come year 2000, that blacks are going to be replaced by Hispanics. Hispanics met in 1974 out in Kansas City, drew up what they call a manifesto, which says by the year 2000 they would replace and supplant black folk in America. They would totally shut you down by the year 2000. They said, why are you out there demanding, crying and moaning about we shall overcome someday? They're going to say, we're going to demand today to get what we want. By flooding into the country. While they're going to demand, they can say, we're going to overwhelm while you're trying to overcome. And that's why in the year 2000 now, where we used to be second-class citizens, they made us third-class citizens. And so out in California now, you are third-class citizen. You were second-class citizens for all those years. It's gone. Now the Asians and the Arabs in the next 10 to 12 years, they're going to kick you out of being number 3. You're going to become number 4. They're going to bind up and they're going to push you back to number 4. Now, if you think you didn't get anything from being number 2 for 500 years through enslavement and Jim Crow segregation, use your creative imagination to figure out what you're going to get when you become number 4. I can tell you, but I'm not going to tell you in mixed company. That's what's going to happen to you. They're getting ready to eradicate you off the face of the earth. There are groups now around the world talking about getting rid of the non-producers, what they call the eaters, which means they eat and don't produce anything. Now, I can name a lot of organizations. And that's all this turmoil you see now. And so what they said, so immigration then was never designed to benefit black folk. Never designed. It was designed to displace you and replace you. And in 1970, what they did, they came up with a new concept, said not only will we displace them, but now let's take the focus off of black folk and put it on a public policy called benign neglect and political correctness. You hear people talking about political correctness, understand what they're saying to you. What they're saying to you is that you're now an obsolete labor class. You've been abandoned by your own leadership. Nobody's going to speak up for black folk in this country unless one got one fool doing it running around the country and around the world. That's Claude Anderson. He's the only one that got no damn better sense to keep fighting for black folk. Nobody else going to do. You're going to hear one black in the public office, a civil rights order, tell us we're going to do for black folk. They're going to use camouflaging terms to use. They're going to use these very broad, ambiguous terms. Figure you haven't got enough sense to figure out what it means. They're going to use these broad terms like minorities and poor folk and people of color. And what does that mean? You go and say, well, you got black folks screaming, I'm a minority. Yeah, so what is a minority? Minority means you a loser. You live in a society that says the majority will win and rule and the minority will lose and suffer. Why would you volunteer to run around saying, calling yourself a minority? Huh? Why would you do it? Rather, because minority means that you haven't got a chance. And you ask me, what is a minority? Nobody knows. If you want to be honest about it, the white male is a minority. A peg-legged, one-eyed man is a minority. A humpback lesbian with a hernia is a triple minority. So nobody knows what it is. And they tell you, well, you got to come on in the minority program. Yes, I want to get in your minority program. Why? And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes, why you should be rejecting it. Don't let them put you in these broader categories of called minorities. And when they start talking about the American dream, you question and say, now, when does black folk get a chance to enjoy the American dream? Because you see, here's what the American dream was. The American dream was at that time in history, it was 90% black labor and 10% Indian land. That was the American dream. And later on, it morphed in what you call now, they come into America the same thing, but no longer free land. It means coming to America and getting free unearned benefits. That's why all these groups come to the country. They're not rushing across the Mexican border to get along with you and to love you. They're coming here to compete with you for resources, ownership, and rights. And see, they take over these communities. They came into Florida. For that time, when they came into Florida, I wrote the affirmative action plan in 1970 for the state of Florida. See, Cubans began to pour into the state. First they took over Overtown. Ran blacks out of Overtown and took it over. Then they went after Liberty City. Then they went after Coconut Grove. And now Cubans pretty well dominates almost all of Florida. That's why you hear people like Ted Cruz and Mario all talking about Florida Cubans. They own and dominate. And we're black folks. Just out playing with balls. They don't understand what's going on. They didn't get the understanding what's going on. And so immigrants now learn this, and Americans' policies, political correctness says this. When Nixon got the memo from Daniel Moynihan in 1968, it says, the way you shut down the black civil rights movement in this country and shut down the black power movement in this country is you take the focus off of black folk and put it on minority women and immigrants. And then the political correctness say, then make blackness, every form of blackness disappear. Make every form of blackness. Don't include blackness in anything. That's called being politically correct. That's why God knows why would blacks sit there and listen to a campaign for 2 years for the President of the United States and no one has ever mentioned one time about black folk. Every day on TV, nobody's talking about you. Why are you worried about voting and nobody's talking about you? You don't demand anything, they're not going to give you anything. Nobody promised you anything. They always talk about what they're going to do for Hispanics, Asians, Jews, Arabs, anybody coming to America. Not one is going to say anything about black folk. And I'm sick and tired and disappointed to listen to black folks sit on their haunches and do nothing. I got children and grandchildren. Get off your butts and do something. Hit the media, start raising holy cans. We ain't going for it anymore. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. Yeah.
This is why I don't understand why a lot of black people don't talk about Dr. Claude Anderson, especially when it comes to so-called black leaders in the community. Because powernomics is powerful. If you put them solutions, the same thing of like, this is the reason why I read Minneapolis stories so much, right? Because not that I just want it engraved in my brain, but for the fact that I want that knowledge to be tattooed in there. You know, I am somebody that, not to any kind of blame or anything, but I had a brain bleeding stroke, so my brain is not the best. So I want to get it engraved, and it saddens me, especially when we're talking about Heritage Park. You know, they talk about the promises. Let's go all the way back to when it was Sumner Projects. Let's go into the Holloman lawsuit. Does that mean they haven't fulfilled those promises? The NAACP, the city of Minneapolis, the MPHA, the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority, they had a whole consent decree. A whole consent decree in there. That didn't do nothing. Changed. Only thing that changed was the people that you're looking at. The same powerful systems that are at play have been there. The same nonprofits, the black churches. Yeah, the black leader has really done a number in Minnesota, and people would rather ignore it than to face it front on. And that to me is one like I call like Kendall. To me, I will tell you like this: Kendall Qualls is not the answer. It's not the answer. I know people want to be like, well, what about Lisa DeMuth and Kendall? Listen, both of them are the same exact thing that we're going to get if Amy Klobuchar is put in there. The same shit. Nothing's changed, like from Tim Walz to Kendall Qualls to our Lisa DeMuth or Amy Klobuchar. They're all the same. They're all the same. So I just don't get it. But here we have still, this is 2026, and we're still talking about, I think we'll still be talking about this for a couple more years. But this is something that should be taken serious, is the fraud, and we're not. This is not taken serious. And I do feel like we need to be more, put pressure on these public officials, no matter if it comes to Keith Ellison, Tim Walz. Yeah, because I can tell you right now, when you're looking at some of these sentences that have come out lately, you're like, damn, that ain't no type of accountability. That ain't no type of like a year and a half. Like, come on, you're ruined. People have lives have been ruined. People that were supposed to be helped weren't. You had people that died or even went homeless. And we're still, but y'all want to pardon. The Democratic Party in Minnesota wants to pardon a man who molested his sister-in-law, who was the sister to his wife. So now I understand why the letter was so easy to be able to get. Because it's in his family. That's the shit that fucks me up. It's like, how can y'all claim to be for the people, but yet you're pardoning somebody that molested his own family member? That's what I like. I don't understand that shit. But here you go with the 436 childcare fraud investigations still going on to this day.
Tonight, we are tracking a new effort to stop fraud at taxpayer-funded daycares in Minnesota.
Investigative reporter Ryan Raich found out a new electronic attendance system is off to a slow start. And Ryan, you're pressing state leaders for answers on this.
You guys, at least twice in the last decade, outside auditors have been telling the state it needs to move to electronic attendance. They say it's one of the best ways to stop fraud before it happens. Why did it take so long for Minnesota to make this shift to electronic attendance?
Well, I think since 2019, I think there's been a real steady shift, and every year there have been more policies, statutes that have been put in place to help address program integrity.
Program integrity, a buzzword for the opposite of fraud at the state government in Minnesota. Behind the scenes at the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, they're making a change that some say is long overdue. Investigators can finally compare billing and attendance records at the same time from the same computer.
We want this program to go to those who need it most. And part of our responsibility is to really make sure that we are taking program integrity very seriously.
Assistant Commissioner Barty Wahi leads the program that's made plenty of headlines this year.
FBI search warrant, make yourself known.
In April, 5 Investigates watched state and federal agents raid 9 daycares across the Twin Cities as part of a sweeping fraud investigation. Billing records we obtained show the daycares under investigation raked in millions in taxpayer money, and it somehow doubled in 2 years. How does that explosion in billing that quickly not set off alarm bells in this building?
Well, I will say that I think that part of our move to electronic attendance record keeping is really about being able to sort of proactively identify and pull reports and work very closely with our Inspector General.
Are you able to share how many providers your Inspector General is investigating right now for possible fraud?
I'm sorry, I don't have that answer.
I followed up, and DCYF still has not provided a number. The state says phase 1 of this electronic system includes just 81 providers. That's less than 10% of the entire program.
We accept childcare assistance in all of our programs.
In May, I sat down with the CFO of the largest provider in the state, New Horizon, who questioned whether this system goes far enough. Will an electronic attendance system stop or weed out bad actors?
Based on the way the program is set today, no. It's not going to do anything.
Why is that?
It's not a real online system. It's an after-the-fact attendance system. The system isn't ready to go yet.
Penny Allen says the best option is real-time attendance uploaded automatically. Instead, the state still allows providers to manually send attendance records after the fact. But Wahi says they have other safeguards in place. Do you think a year from now we would see the entire state utilizing this system?
You know, our hope is to really be able to move through that process and, again, continue to phase in different provider groups as we continue to move forward.
Now, in the last 90 minutes, I just heard back from DCYF with an answer to one of the questions I had, and the answer is stunning. The agency confirmed its Inspector General currently has 436 child care investigations open right now. These all deal with taxpayer-funded programs, including the CCAP program that we're talking about right here, but 436, an eye-popping number of open investigations.
That there is 436 open child care fraud investigations. That's crazy. Like, are we going to admit that we have a problem? Like, are we going to admit that we have an issue? Like, this should be wild, but I get it. This is, one thing that I've noticed in Minnesota is that we like drama, first of all. We like popularity. We like chaos. If you look at a lot of our biggest cities in Minnesota, from Minneapolis, from St. Paul, Rochester, Duluth, St. Cloud, look at the way that those like city councils, school boards are going. They're not going to, especially when it comes to like Duluth or let's say Rochester or even St. Cloud. That's a socialist heaven. That's a socialist heaven. That's why it's so hard to win statewide races in Minnesota if you're a Republican, because of the simple fact of 4 of the biggest cities in Minnesota are liberal and progressive. No matter if it goes from Minneapolis and St. Paul, Rochester, Duluth, St. Cloud. Like, those are all areas that have been, I feel like we've already lost control of. Those cities we've already lost control of. I feel like there is no coming back from that because people are so indoctrinated. They argue over stupid shit. Stupid shit. Are they like, yeah, I just don't get it no more. I see one of the things that I hate about like all of this is like one of the main things that I hear when I get into like debates or even dialogues with people. The first thing they'll say is, well, I'm not political. I don't vote. Well, then sit your ass down somewhere. Don't be coming. This is the one thing that I don't understand, right? I don't go on other people's posts. A lot of this shit I keep to myself. A lot. I don't go on other people's posts no more, right? And say the shit that I used to say. I just really, not that I like don't want to do it, or I just don't want to educate them people anymore, because I feel like those are the cogs in the system, right? Those are the people that are making it so hard because we can't get changed, because they're comfortable, are settled in this chaos. They don't care about, the kids. They don't care about, and you can tell that. You can tell that. I mean, like, I really don't understand it anymore, and I don't get it. But even like this next story, people will say, well, what about it? Yeah, the Minneapolis Police Misconduct Review. Let me get into that, because, of course, people aren't going to believe it unless they see it or hear it, whatever you need. So let's get into the Minneapolis Police Review.
New analysis showing how misconduct allegations have been handled by the Minneapolis Police Department. This comes just a week after an ACLU report found that concerns over Minneapolis policing tactics have continued, bringing reform conversations back into the spotlight. Fox 9's So-Young Kim was at the Community Commission on Police Oversight meeting and joins us now to talk about this. So-Young, what did residents have to say at the meeting tonight?
Some residents raised concerns about the finding that coaching is a common way misconduct allegations are handled against Minneapolis police officers. Minneapolis's Office of Police Conduct Review presented its report to the Community Commission on Police Oversight Monday. The analysis reviewed police chief disciplinary decisions on misconduct allegations against Minneapolis police officers. It looked at chief decisions from January 2024 to May 2026, including allegations investigated by OPCR and Internal Affairs, and found of the 204 allegations resolved by chief decision, roughly half were not substantiated. Of the 84 allegations where misconduct was found to have occurred, the chief's most common decision to remedy was by coaching, which accounted for roughly 45% of the outcomes. Some residents raised concerns this method lacks transparency.
Non-disciplinary corrections are not public information, so we cannot rely on data access to make sure only proper items are being coached.
According to OPCR, coaching is not discipline, so the police chief's disciplinary decisions sent to coaching are not made public. So what is coaching? According to the City of Minneapolis's Human Resources Guide, coaching is described as a performance management tool, including one-on-one training. OPCR also responded to several questions from commission members about what factors determine whether misconduct is eligible to be routed for coaching.
It has a minimal impact on MPD operations and image. It is a low-level violation, and there is no history of that violation.
OPCR is described as a neutral agency and is a division of the Minneapolis Civil Rights Department. We're live in Minneapolis.
That's kind of wild to me that, well, actually it's not wild to me no more. It's just crazy to me, but then it makes me think about the Sumner projects, the Holloman lawsuit, the consent decree, what housing in the police. We haven't changed much. We're still in the same old cycle of bullshit. And that's one thing that I just can't understand of when are we going to change? When are we going to realize that we can do better? We can be better as people. Oh, that's the one thing I wanted to show y'all too. Lab-grown milk is coming to U.S. shelves in 2026. Y'all better get a handle on that because it's coming. Yeah. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Just don't get it. It's crazy to me. When are people gonna finally say enough is enough and deal with the shit? To be honest, I don't think a lot of people want to. I don't think a lot of people want to deal with it. I don't think a lot of people want to even think about it. And that's the messed up part.